Okay, so I've always had a theory about the Morgan Cassian Azriel thing. I've said it a few times, but I've always thought that Azriel is not actually really in love with Morgan. I think Azriel is fixated on Morgan and because of guilt. Because I think that Rhysand's father and like the Court of Nightmares, they made Azriel partake in the torture of Morgan for whatever reason. And that's the secret that's between them. And that's the reason why he feels like he can't touch Elaine without like dirtying her or whatever. And because like none of that is canon, that's just my personal theory. I don't necessarily think that this will go exactly the way that I'm saying that it will. This is what makes the most sense to me logically and emotionally and narratively. I think when Azriel does speak of Morgan, I think his fixation on her will be proven to be less than romantic. I don't think that it'll be a sexual thing. I don't think that he's going to be obsessed with her. I think he's just going to feel a lot of just unrealized guilt and of like unprocessed guilt is what I mean. Like I don't think he's going to be going out of his way to say things like, oh, Morgan's like beautiful like a piece of art in a museum. Like that's not happening because I don't think Azriel's feelings for Morgan went nearly as deep as Cassian thought or as Rhysand currently thinks. Rather, I feel like Cassian has always been a buffer between Azriel and Morgan because Azriel and Morgan have never spoken about her being tortured at the hands of the Night Court and Azriel participating in it and how he handled that. And I think that Cassian and everybody assumed that, oh, Azriel's in love with Morgan and Morgan just doesn't want to deal with it. So Cassian is kind of like being a buffer between them. But in reality, there's just this horrible, horrible thing sitting in between them and no one knows about it. And it's just something that they've had to process on their own and they haven't been able to talk about it. I think the closest they would have come is when Azriel went to rescue her in the autumn court, which is why I think Eris also knows about it. And he's trying to say something and Morgan tells Feyre, oh, he was going to confess his love, but I walked away. I don't think that's what actually happened. I think Morgan lied to Feyre and it's actually, oh, Azriel's going to apologize and he was going to like explain himself and Morgan just didn't want to hear it because like she got a nail put in her uterus. Like she didn't want to hear that shit. But I also think that Morgan and Azriel do have like this, deep respect for each other. And they're friends. Like they gossip about Cassian when he's not around. And I think that Morgan does want to see him happy because there's that moment where Elaine is like visualizing something and Azriel like just looks at her and he winnows away and Morgan just stares at the spot that he left that he left when he like winnowed out or shadow walked out of there. So I do think that Morgan does want to see him happy and she does see him as a friend. There's just this thing sitting between them that they've never ever discussed. And I think in order for Azriel to have a happily ever after with Elaine or anybody else, he is going to have to talk to Morgan about the things that he did, the things that he was forced to do, and the way that they've just never discussed it. So that's just personally like what I think.